Hi everyone, it's the big one. Powerbox have now released what everyone was asking for, flight modes on their core radio. Now, why is that such a big deal and why was everyone asking for it? Now, many of you use flight modes as a dual rate. So on a single switch you modify the aileron, elevator and or rudder, travel and expo. Now there's nothing wrong with that. However, you wouldn't have missed flight modes because you can do the exact same thing via dual rates, as I do. The big point here was people who fly jets, especially those coming from Futaba, who are used to being able to have separate elevator trims for each of their flap positions. That's right, no need to land and make complex mixes with guesswork, because on each flap position you can trim the elevator individually. So thanks to the flight modes, that's exactly what you can do now with the Powerbox core radio, along with many other things. However, I know that most people that were asking for it, it was for that reason. You can still use flight modes for anything up to and including massive gliders with 1,000,000 servos, and using different flight modes for different positions, for speed or for landing or for gliding, soaring, etc. So without making this video any longer, let's have a look exactly how the flight modes work. I'm sure that you'll pick it up real quick. To keep this video tutorial as simple as possible, I've created a new model with only the functions for elevator and flaps. After all, that is the reason why most people were crying out for the flight modes to be finished on the core, so that they can have independent elevator trims on the standard trim switch whilst having 3 different positions of flaps. So the idea is each time you move the flap, you can trim the plane using your elevator trim as normal and don't have to land and worry about making mixes, etc. So if we go into the flight modes, this all may look rather confusing to start with. However, all we need to know is that we start at the bottom left hand corner, and the more flight modes we create, the further along it will go. Now, for this example where we only want to use 3 elevator trims, we're only going to use the bottom row here. If, however, within the flight modes you want to create, shall we say, a sub-flight mode, so a flight mode within another flight mode, that's when you would want to go over here. So let's see. First mode would be with the flaps off. So we select our flap switch and we program it to the flap off position, which is there. And we're going to call this one fly, because that's the mode that we use when we are flying. You can see at the top it also shows us what flight mode we're in. Now that shows up in any screen of the core, so you can easily see it at any point. Now if we go back into flight modes, we would then create the middle position of flap. Now ignore the fact it goes over here for now, just create whatever it is that you need. So input, we want the flap again. This time we want it in the middle position, and we're going to call it flap 1. Now it's important to change the name, otherwise it coincides with all the other functions and doesn't work properly. So always change the name after you've assigned the switch. So we now have fly, flap 1, and then because we haven't assigned anything for the third position, it bounces all the way to the end. But as you can see at the top, fly, flap 1, and then whatever is left after that. Now then, this is where if we simply wanted to have the independent elevator trims, we would set up here in the same way as we did the previous 2 for the third position of the switch and call that one flap 3. We can then go to the functions menu, go into our elevator trim, and simply select flight mode single instead of global. So now when we are in our fly mode, we can have, let's say, a load of up trim. Then when we go to our flap mode, you can see the elevator trim is completely independent and separate. So you can have different trims for different elevators. You would have the same again for the third position if and when you generate it. Now, going back into our functions of the flight modes, from fly to flap 1, it's possible that you have your flaps slowed down. You can also select how long you want it to take to fade in or fade out. In other words, match that change of elevator trim in this case to the delay or the speed of the flaps coming up or going down. That way your elevator trim doesn't come in sooner than your flaps do, or vice versa. Now, let's complicate things a little bit more. Let's say that when you had full flaps, you wanted to have a sub menu with different flight modes again, because you wanted to have, I don't know, different crows or different anythings. Here then you would simply create the same thing again, and you've probably figured out now how it works. We simply create a new switch position there. We want this to be active on the up position, and it automatically generates those for us. So we have the up position, the other one is for the other two positions, and we can then generate further options. So let's say it's on that one. There you go. So you can have, let's call this, I don't know, just call it A, B, and C. As we said, they have to have different names, otherwise they don't work properly. So we have flight modes C, A and B. Then we also have our flap 1 and our flap 2, which are not affected by these because the priority is always on this line from left to right. So whatever's on this line, if it matches the switch positions, it will never go any further. So it matches the first one, matches the second one, doesn't match, so it goes over here. If we go back here, and instead of allowing it to reach the very end without a match, we generate a match, the input. We're going to assign it the third position. We're now going to call this one flap 3. It now automatically has, oh sorry, that should be called flap 2, but so we have our fly, flap 1 and flap 3, and because in this part of the menu there is a match, it doesn't allow the sequence to go any further. So despite having generated these other possibilities, because there is a lock on here, it doesn't go any further. So once again, if we go back here, we have our separate elevator trims for each one of our flight modes. Thanks to the new flight modes, the options are now limitless, and we basically have a fully functioning radio with everything that we could ever need, and with even more great features that we didn't even know that we needed coming very soon. This thing just got real. And there you go, a quick overview of how the flight modes work in the Powerbox Core Radio. Hopefully everyone's been able to understand that, and you can see exactly how to make those for your own requirements. If not, leave any questions in the comments below and I'll be happy to look into it for you and get back to you, even with another video if necessary. Aside from that, hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. I'm Martin Pickering, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and hit that subscribe button. Subscribing is free and just means that you'll get notified whenever I upload future videos. And with the number of events, adventures and ideas that are coming to the channel, you're not going to want to miss out. So hit that subscribe button, and again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.